Hi there, listener. You're about to experience TADPOG. Tyler and Dave play old games, and there will be plenty of game talk, but also copious amounts of crude, off-color, offensive, and immature speech. So if you are of a rather sensitive humor constitution, we're just letting you know what you're in for with this show. It has games. It has jokes. You know, just games and jokes. Take the games, take the jokes, and have a good time.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to another TADPOG podcast. It's a show where 2 to 3 old guys and one chaotic, corresponding, pretty young lady. Pretty young. Talk about old games, interesting games, 5-star request games.
Games. Let's focus on the games part.
Games. So it's other shit Monday.
Yeah, so we can do whatever we want. Like, let me just go ahead and say that right now. We can do whatever we want.
Whatever we fucking want.
Whatever we want. Because it's not an IGN. It's not an IGN Wednesday.
No, it's not. It is, and today we have chosen eventually is rolled back around. So we are choosing the request of GuyMeirow to have a board game episode with Wiley Ammons. And we're upping the ante by throwing in some Laura Ammons.
Correspondent Laura Ammons, who has been heard very quietly in the background of one episode, I believe. So,
I'm at 4 now.
well, I don't know if you were actually heard. You've been in the background, but I think you've only been slightly heard in one.
And called into several others.
Yes, that is true. Hence correspondent.
Right. And navigatrix, as John pointed out.
Because we had talked
You're welcome, John.
last week about doing the BioShock Infinite board game.
Right.
Well,
we did not commit to that.
Right. My daughter was
Wisely.
baptized today. Yay. Your sister was inducted into the Honor Society. It was a busy day.
It was the same ceremony.
Yep.
Yeah, it was
the
kind of
dual
bizarre,
honorary baptism ceremony.
Yeah.
And
It just wasn't co-locational, but it was the same thing.
You're right, exactly.
And BioShock Infinite is at least a 3 to 4 hour board game, and we just didn't have time to play it. Dave and I have played it once a little bit in a very half-assed way.
Yeah, Josh fell asleep while we were doing it, and you and I ate a pizza. And then Kyle shrugged.
So we pretty much we played a
We
good
played
board
it,
game pretty
nailed
well.
it. I'm pretty sure we'll chalk that up as a win.
And as board games go, the published time is 3 to 4 hours, right? If we had a game,
Not to mention learning.
right? That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. With 4 people trying to play it in earnest for the first time, it would probably take twice that.
Probably.
So instead of just one game, I think we're just going to take an overview of board games in general that we like.
And you two are experts. I would say very much experts.
I play a lot of board games.
You ran the board game, the whole board game side of AmeliaCon, right?
I did. I was invited as one of my friends is the corporate sponsor, one of the corporate sponsors for the con. And the guy who was running the con, it was the inaugural year this past year, and said, "Do you know anybody who runs board games?" And he said, "As a matter of fact, I do." It was the week after Dragon Con, and I was around and liked playing games. And so, yeah, I was the staffer that ran board games for AmeliaCon and had a blast. And
Good turnout.
Yes. So,
Plug the con. I want to go next year.
all right. Well, it's on.
The return of Dave to Fernandina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
My
on
old
Amelia
stomping
Island
grounds.
in Fernandina in northeast Florida, out in the Atlantic. And it's one of those intercoastal islands along the northern coast of Florida. And it was an inaugural convention, and they said, we don't have much geek stuff going on Amelia Island. And so there was a married couple who decided to just go for it and plunged their savings into it and put a lot of work and did a lot of marketing and recruited a lot of volunteers. And they bought 1,000 wristbands, which were the entry token for this first convention, being really optimistic. And about halfway through Saturday of the 3-day convention, they sold out.
That's awesome.
And there were so many people who were coming in saying, "Where has this been? There is nothing like this on Amelia Island. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And so they were already saying by the end of the convention, "We're going to do this again. Come back." And so I'm really excited about it. And they're looking at dates. It was the second weekend in September this past year. They may do it the third weekend in September in 2015, but look out for it. AmeliaCon.com is the website, and it was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
They're also on the Facebook and the Twitter, and they have an adorable like skull and crossbones because the Fernandina's mascot is the pirates for all their stuff. So it's this little pirate flag that's real cute.
I used to live there. Fun fact. Unbeknownst before I knew you guys, it was kind of one of those things where, Laura, I think you mentioned seeing Trainsy on Amelia Island, and I was like, you sent me a text, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to live there. And you're like, no, you didn't. Like, yeah, I did. I used to live there, Fernandina Beach. You're like, what?
Yeah, it was a sign in the hotel we were staying in on Amelia Island said, please forgive the train noise because the Days Inn is right next to the train track.
I brought Trainsy with me
Right,
from
to
Fernandina
Kentucky.
Beach. Yes.
Good.
You're welcome, Kentucky.
Yeah, well, it's a great place. It's a lot of fun. Cosplay, anime, of course, magic everywhere. Board games.
The Gathering or,
Yes, Magic the Gathering.
performers?
Probably some performers, too.
I mean, I have to say, too, coming from DragonCon the weekend before with the cosplay, I mean, there was a lot of anime representation with the room dedicated to anime viewing all day long. And I wasn't, as I was saying earlier in the weekend, I wasn't really expecting to see Welcome to Night Vale cosplay. And yet there it was.
I need to listen to that. I need to.
I do. Think
I hear it's excellent.
I think you dig it a lot.
Yeah, it's very good. If you're into radio theater at all.
I mean,
it's really good.
there were people wandering through a children's playground saying, all hail Glow Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's a podcast on podcasts.
That's what we like to do. It's Other
Fun.
Shit Monday.
We'll get meta.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm your bearded host, Tyler. And one thing I remember, whenever Wiley first brought it up, I knew because he was the only person who'd ever said this to me. And that we could agree on it, was that when we were driving through Atlanta, going to Meg's brother's house, after we had we picked someone up or dropped him off, and as we were going around, we saw a crystal right over there by his house. And Wiley was like,
in
man,
Final Fantasy? When you
a
saw a giant
big,
crystal?
like the Earth crystal was
Yeah.
right there in Atlanta.
I was about to ask you which one it was.
That's why the peaches and Vidalia onions are so good, because they have the Earth crystal. Yeah,
Okay.
Atlanta does.
Oh, not a butt crystal.
Not a butt crystal. But no, it was a crystal burger. Crystal with a K. And Wiley was like, man, I sure could go for a crystal burger. And I was like, you know what? So could I. Out of all the people I've known in my life, we're the only two I've ever heard agree, like, we could go for a crystal burger.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No, there's three here. No, especially at that point in time, we would really have wanted a crystal burger because we were in the no fresh, hot, small square zone in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. No Sonics, no Crystals, no White Castles.
Was
Yeah.
it like a zoning thing? They're like, no shitty food here.
Well, they had Safeway, so that was not the case.
What is that?
It's a supermarket. I lost my words. I don't have any words.
It's fine.
Grocery store?
It's a podcast.
It's a grocery store. It's a blah. What do you call a group of grocery stores?
Chain?
A chain. Thank
Yeah.
you. A chain of groceries. A parliament of grocery stores.
As opposed to having shitty chain restaurants of fast food, they had shitty chain grocery stores because Safeway was by no means the only one that was bad.
Piggly Wiggly, you mean?
Piggly
no.
Wiggly, I'm all for.
We would have
It's worse than a Piggly
rejoiced at a
Wiggly?
Piggly Wiggly.
What's so bad? Like,
comparison.
what makes...
Safeway ice cream.
Giant.
Oh yeah, Giant. But man, the
And
ice
it's another
cream.
grocery store chain that is also awful.
Oh man.
Giant? I've heard of Food Giant. We had those in Cedar Rapids, but I've never heard of just straight up Giant. They're like, they just
It's
gave
just
up
a
food.
big dude who just gives
Yeah.
you food
They just
Yeah.
gave
out
up
of the
on
back
it.
of a truck.
And they're like,
They may have given up on food because all the produce was so old. I would have visited home and seen Plant City strawberries 4 months previous, too old to eat, and then get up to Alexandria and go, why are they trying to sell those?
it's like a ghost ship.
Those have probably fermented.
No employees there. Just all the fruit is just rotten. There's just flies buzzing around.
No, they really were flies.
Oh,
We would go to an Asian grocery store that had like all kinds sort of crazy fruit that had been there for months, and it would be in better condition than what we would get in the Giant.
did they sell the flies? If not, they're missing out on an opportunity. I
No,
think.
you get those free.
Yeah.
No charge for that.
Thanks, Giant.
Because I remember when I was little, the first Crystal Burger moved to town. And I remember after church, Brandon of Axelay fame and our families, bunch of church people, we all went to Crystal. And like they had a big play place and just tiny burgers that I could eat. And I thought it was just amazing. And since then, I'd always enjoyed Crystal. As I had gotten older, I didn't enjoy Crystal cheeseburgers as much, but their chicken sandwiches were always good. Always good.
Are those also tiny?
They're also tiny.
Okay. This is like their theme. They're like tiny food.
Small chicken sandwich, one pickle, dot of mayo. Good.
So then, and that's perfect for a small child because you feel like a grown up, right? You can put two hands around one of those tiny ass burgers.
And if you're a fat child, you can just keep eating them. It's good.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing if you're drunk that if you can't count, you can eat as many as you like.
I can't count and I'm not drunk.
I heard that episode.
Yeah.
But as opposed to going to McDonald's and ordering a lot of hamburgers, you just get a bag of them. They sell them by the sackful. So you can just get a bag and just continue to eat them until you can't eat anymore.
I want to posit a question. Why can't you just buy a giant bag of McDonald's French fries? I've always wanted to ask them, going through, being like, can you just fill a bag up with fries and just, I don't know, come up with a price?
Does McDonald's have a secret menu so secret we didn't know you could order a bag of fries?
They might.
Have you? I think I mentioned before the French fry parties that teenagers in Japan started throwing, where they would go in and order like 200 orders of large fries and dump them all out onto a table, just have this enormous mountain, and all the teenagers just all gathered together and just eat fries all day long at McDonald's.
I mean, I know there's a day where people celebrate donuts in Korea and they order like a Krispy Kreme out of donuts. And we've seen friends of ours that have posted video from this holiday, whatever day it is, I don't remember, where they crush them all together like an entire dozen and eat.
Like they eat it like a sandwich?
Because
Yeah.
the Krispy Kreme, they have a lot of air in them, so you can crush
They
them.
can press them?
They can,
Ugh.
or they'll just
You just get
they'll just eat
your
them.
it's a burger vice and a donut vice. You just get them, swing it down, and just press it and press
Roll it into one.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That is something I've never been able to get into, is using donuts as buns for hamburgers.
No.
No.
I know
Grilled
that's a
cheese
thing.
I can do, and I did today, and it was good.
A donut grilled cheese?
When I had a burger that had grilled cheese. in it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I had ate at the Gold Rush Cafe after Kenneth's baptism, and I had the Excalibur, which was 2 grilled cheese for buns, egg, 2 patties. It was good.
I mean,
enjoyed
you see a pun sandwich on a menu, you don't pass
Gotta
it up.
get it.
I have a very great picture of Josh trying to pull the knife out of Excalibur that came on his plate. That, with his permission, we could easily include in the show notes.
We don't need his permission.
Is that like
Little did he know when I was taking that picture with my cell phone.
is that meta? I mean, Excalibur should be pulled out of the rock, not
Oh,
Not out of the sandwich?
not out of the Excalibur.
We just call it the rock.
yeah. You're ruining my joke.
But I was all
I do
for
that.
it. And Crystal, I remember when I was little, like it didn't stay in town that long. Crystal, but a lot of people like Crystal. So it became Los Amigos, super popular. That's what's there today on Southside Paducah. But then they opened one up in Murray when I got to college.
Yeah.
Super excited. I remember the day it opened, I was there.
Yeah.
And I got a whole bunch of burgers. And I ate them, and it was just like nostalgia tinted this a little bit. But then when I got to the chicken and the breakfast sandwiches, right on track.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking,
Still there,
Fucking
huh?
good. But see, the thing is, like, the breakfast version was the best. They had the little sausage and cheese biscuits and the chicken biscuits in the morning. That was the best time to go to Crystal's in the morning. But fuck if I'm at college and I'm ever waking up that early to get that sandwich.
Well, the nice thing about Crystal is that they're open 24 hours a day, and so it's more waiting for breakfast to start as
You're
opposed
right.
to getting there early enough to get breakfast.
Yeah. But I remember whenever we were talking about Crystal today, and I was sitting in the car and I was just like, man, when was the last time I even had one of these burgers? And I realized, it was when I got out of jail. That was the first thing I had to eat after I got out of jail.
Celebration breakfast,
Yeah.
baby.
Like it was like my Shawshank Redemption of crawling. I crawled through the shit to the other end and just had to have a Crystal burger.
That explains the jailhouse, like all black caps, crystal for life that's above your belly button.
I was wondering where that came from.
I've eaten a lot of White Castle burgers because my dad would. I think I mentioned that like I liked them once, so he went and fucking filled the freezer with those White Castle like 9 packs, and those. Oh man, they're fine fresh, but you get them frozen and warmed up and like
Reconstituted.
they just taste like they're just like onion burgers and they're weird consistency. It's just the last time I had one of those was in high school. I remember he had a whole bunch of them. I had friends over, so I pulled them out and I made all of them. And Sean Miller ate several. Man, he got fucking sick in my bathroom that night. Whoa, he got sick. Then it was later when he was like, "Oh man, these have like really raw onions on them." Well, yeah. Oh yeah, I can't eat raw onions. And I didn't believe him. I was like, whatever. Yeah, you can. He's like, no, I'm like, he goes in my bathroom. I just hear explosions. And he's like, I know people have tried to like trick me before and they'll hide onions in like hamburger meat, raw onions. No, I'm not fucking with anybody. I don't know why no one believes me.
Wow.
I guess I believe you now because it's pretty bad.
So
Because I had to clean that bathroom.
super effective.
That's right. Onion attack. Well, the best man at my wedding worked at Crystal's when I was working at Winn-Dixie, which was my first job. And
Also a grocery store chain that we're not fond of.
yeah, he
Oh,
worked.
yeah.
For the record.
Oh,
know.
Hashtag hire Wiley.
yeah, exactly. They've heard the interview episode, or if not, go back. There's a great story there. But he was mastering my favorite part about the Crystal Burger, which is what we call the gray stuff.
And it's probably why when the one in Murray first opened, Tyler, that it wasn't very good.
It is,
Gray stuff takes a while to form.
yeah. So it's meat, grease, and onion that mixes on the side of the Crystal Burger when it gets into the cardboard box and into the bag and starts to get steamy and a little soggy. And the corner of the bun starts to get almost transparent, like
Yeah.
the brown paper from a greasy restaurant a sandwich shop does. And that's the best part. It's almost like dipping.
Magic.
It's a part.
It's almost like dipping bread in French onion soup.
God.
So my buddy Will, when he was working at Crystal's, they put them under a steam hood. So the burgers go on the grill, the buns go on the burger. They toss some water on it, put it under a steam hood, and they steam the burgers as they're finishing.
Okay.
Which kind of softens the bread.
I've heard about that. Steam buns are actually the best way to go. For
So
There's actually a
Will,
YouTube video of a guy showing you how they make Crystal Burgers so you can have a chance of trying to make them at home for the show notes.
so Will perfected a technique that he called maximizing gray stuff, where he could get it three ways around the bread. So
Which is a perfect crystal.
3 out of 4 sides had gray stuff on it. And so I would go into Crystal's on my lunch break at Winn-Dixie and order Crystals with extra gray stuff, and Will could pull it off. And this is the only food that my dad affectionately calls gut bombs. That's what they're called around my house.
It was also one of the only foods that when Wiley was doing Weight Watchers a couple of years ago with some friends at work, and I was also doing it with him, I refused to look up the point values for. If I'm in a position where I'm eating a Crystal Burger, I do not want to know how much damage I'm doing.
Like-
It's just a free day.
If you're eating anything
Done.
that like includes gray stuff
Exactly.
and like bread gelatin,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
probably
Especially when
don't
you're eating
look
it
that up.
in volume.
Well, anything you're eating in volume, especially like
I mean, I'm not a big person, but an entire sack full I've put away more than once by myself.
that stuff is dangerous because like you can do that, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. Hi, I'm Dave, your bespectacled host, and often when I'd get a Crystal, I'd get a bag of burgers and eat a bunch of them, and then be like, why the fuck did I eat all those nasty fucking burgers? I really don't like belly bombers, is what we always call them. That is like my least favorite kind of burger because it's like it's all fucking bread. Like it's all bread. That's it. It's bread. It doesn't matter if it's White Castle or Crystal. By the way, I can't tell the difference between the two of them.
The difference?
I can't tell the difference.
I believe you.
Laura knows this.
Cooked onions and there's holes in White Castle meat. It's like Swiss cheese. If you take the burger apart, you can see it. There's holes.
I never take
Crystal-
it apart. God, what I don't want to like pull
was
the rock
curious.
back and see all the creepy
Well-
crawlies.
Well, I grew up eating crystals, and so we finally got our opportunity to eat White Castle fresh and not from a freezer pack for the first time after a friend's wedding in Pennsylvania. And it seemed like a good scientific idea to do at the time. So we took them and we pulled them apart, and we're like, oh, there's holes in the meat. That's weird.
Maybe it's just that one. Maybe it's just someone liked to eat a little bit of each burger.
Maybe the mice just got into that little
Yeah,
pack.
it's fine. It's no big deal. Yeah, that stuff, I'm sorry. That is like always at the very bottom of food options for me. Like when we're driving on the interstate and see the sign, it's like, I don't know.
I'm funny about
They got a Jack in the Box or
We'll
something.
make it to the next exit.
Yeah.
It's got to be extremes. It's either gut bomb or it needs to be a hamburger that is nice and meaty and has, vegetables on it. Unfortunately, Crystal has added a deluxe crystal with lettuce and tomato. So
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
That's a mistake.
Don't sell out.
Putting lipstick on the pizza.
I mean, they did have that big burger offering, which I've never eaten. The BA burgers, which I think stands for Big Angus, but
Yes.
maybe not. And the ones with lettuce and tomato are the little ones.
Big ass. Big ass burger.
Carl's Jr.'s extra
Barely acceptable.
fries.
Also possible.
And
Welcome to Hardee's and our fucking big asshole burger. 6 pounds of meat, raw and frozen in the middle, burned on the outside.
So this was an Idiocracy. Did you see this movie?
No, I've
Oh,
heard
Carl's
so much
Jr.
about
had
it.
vending machines
Yes.
where you could buy their extra BA burgers.
Well, I also want to thank you for introducing the word Gurmit into
Oh,
my nomenclature.
John
That
Manton.
definitely qualifies as garment.
Yeah.
Crystals.
An
Yes.
old boss of mine. That's the road food that you get from the Jiffy store, the off ramp, or whatever on your way on a road trip. It's Gurmit.
Nothing
And apparently
good.
Wawa is your 5-star Michelin 5-star gourmet.
Yeah, I never heard of Wawa until you guys were talking about it the other day.
Laura works with a lot of New Jerseyites.
And they are big Wawa fans, very big aficionados of their coffee and their fast food offerings, which
Yeah.
are now available in our state of Florida for some reason I do not understand.
This is a gas station.
It is a gas station chain.
Now, fast food that's served out of a gas station, is that technically Gurmit?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just imagine a gas station that someone installed a hot dog cart into,
Yes.
and that's Wawa.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we have those here.
There's sort of this greasy counter back there that heats meat, and you
All right.
can order it in various combinations.
How about this? There's a gas station that has a Godfather's pizza inside of it. Is that pizza Gurmit?
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
We're going with
that.
it?
I'll go with that.
If they have like those pre-packaged slices you can walk up and buy,
Yeah.
that's
That's
gourmet.
gourmet.
That's gourmet.
Yeah.
So it's, the cellophane is really like the true Gurmit test.
Yeah.
What about like Funyuns and beef jerky? Is that still Gurmit?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because
Yeah.
that's like that's pork rinds, Funyuns, beef jerky. That's like the
Well,
holy trinity of my road
we
trip.
had a gourmet dinner the other night
Oh, yeah, we did.
because we were just two guys in hoodies go up to the gas station up
Bright
the road.
hoodies. You had a bright red one, I had a bright green
Yeah.
one.
Like we're Christmas elves that have come in.
You said
get
something
Gurmit.
really funny right before we walked in too. I don't know what it was.
We're just boys in our hoodies.
yeah, that's
Snacks.
exactly what you said.
get
Just
some
snacks. And then, like, so he says it like right as I open the door, so I just bust out laughing immediately. And like everyone at the gas station turns around. I was like, "All right, that's how it's gonna be." Everyone thinks I'm
It's
high.
full of it's
Guess they're here
full of
for
angry
munchies.
rednecks. Full of angry rednecks. So then we go through and we're laughing and giggling and just picking up like beef jerky sticks and ice cream sandwiches and like we get our dinner and like I tell Dave I've got his and we spend $35 in Gurmit.
Wow.
The woman behind me was like, "Y'all boys are hungry."
So you picked up Dave's dinner. Was this a Gurmit date?
This is a Gurmit date.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say it's a Gurmit date.
But this wasn't the trip that resulted in wrap snacks.
No.
Okay.
Wrap snacks are a St. Louis delicacy.
Definitely St. Louis delicacy of the Gurmit variety, though.
Yeah.
It warms the arteriosclerosis.
Regional Gurmit, it changes.
Yes.
I like it.
It's a varying cuisine. It's of different fusions.
That's our next podcast. Regional Gurmit.
So it'll be a traveling podcast that you'll do like a fundraiser for, like some of these other
We're
ones.
going to need a fundraiser.
Get on Kickstarter for our Gurmit podcast.
If Hannah Hart can raise money to get drunk in other people's kitchens and badly cook food, I think you can raise the money to
Eat
travel around
trash.
the country and show us the regional delicacies. that can
Anybody
be
who
gotten
is
at a gas station.
I'm in.
anybody who's strong with Kickstarter, I'm all for that.
I'm in.
Raise it for us to go on a journey to various gas stations people talk about, and we will sample their delicacies and do a podcast.
We're like two Guy Fieri's.
Yeah.
just traveling the
like
lower
two
48.
Even douchier Guy Fieri's.
I don't know if that's
Too old.
We don't even have Guy Fieri's charisma.
It takes two of us. Two of us almost equal one of him. It's pretty bad. So far, I feel like this is a good pitch.
Well,
Two old
we've
guys
talked
eat old food.
we've talked about two regional chains that have very similar foods but don't overlap. So, well, we were talking about Wawa earlier, and
Yes.
there's Sheetz, which is identical to Wawa. Sorry, New Jersey people, it is.
It's a knockoff, or is it a clone?
I don't know the history. Apparently, it's very contentious, but they run up against each other territory-wise.
It's like the Jets and the Sharks.
Yeah, we had stopped into Sheetz and we said something about it. And we're like, is this like a Wawa? And we texted one of the friends that was like, oh, you're going to be in the area. Can you get some Wawa coffee?
What's up with the names of these gas stations?
I don't
Like who's coming up with this? Is it like the manatees in that South Park episode where they're just moving beach
a
balls?
tank.
Yeah.
I think Sheetz is just truth in advertising.
All right.
Because if you're
What do you
ordering,
get there? Yep.
if you're ordering a burger with mozzarella sticks on it, then yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a stoner menu. We can talk about board games. I'm okay to keep talking about this.
Crap food.
Germacast.
This is like, I love crap food. I also love board games, though. I love board games, though. We'll do that.
The
So-
two don't go together well, though.
No.
The grease.
No
and
food on the table.
No food on the table.
You'll destroy your meeples.
See, honestly, like
your cards.
whenever we sit down and play a board game, I always have a good time. But when we're all together, board games tend to always be a hard sell for me because I know we'll play like these big, masterful, amazing board games that take 3 to 4 hours. So then it's always like, I could also play a session D&D. So I'm always torn between like D&D and board games, which both really can go either way. You can play a board game, spend 3 or 4 hours, and depending on the board game, lose and be sick with yourself. Or we can play D&D and then end up just talking, making jokes, and nothing happens for 4 hours straight.
Kind of depends on the group, huh?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people I think who are intimidated by D&D and tabletop role playing games, and I think like board games are like a good. That's like a good area for them, especially when it's not. And I don't mean like Sorry or Monopoly and stuff like that. I mean like mainly like European board games and that kind of stuff.
Good board games.
Great board games. Yeah,
Great
exactly.
board games. That's better. That's better.
Well, that's why we kind of have ours separated mentally, at least. They're not separated in the room with the shelves of games by whether or not it's cooperative, whether or not it's how long it's going to take. You know what I'm saying? So if it's a game where you can play a bunch of matches, that's going to be a little more easily accessible both to teach and to play.
Mm-hmm.
One
Bite
of
size.
one of the favorite games that you've introduced us to that I like because it bridges the gap between Dungeons and Dragons and a board game is the game Fiasco.
Oh, yeah.
I think Fiasco is amazing in that it gives you basically like an outline in which to start telling a story that everyone sort of participates in, and then it gives you like sets up twists and turns that you can kind of go in on and play off each other, and then by the time you're done, you've told a story you've all created together, and that it's for good or for bad, it's always been fun, always been a great experience.
On Fiasco,
Even when I was murdered brutally by a
Russian
chef
cook.
turned Nazi. Yeah.
Fiasco is great also because it's one of those games that's actually like I don't care who wins because it's a fun game. Like it's not a super competitive game, which a lot of games are very competitive.
Also interesting in that there's no board.
Yeah.
Strictly.
So if you call it a board game, that makes it more of a gateway
Well,
for someone who's
let's
not
back
wanting
up.
to role play.
Let's back up then. Like, so, because you're talking about board games, what all falls under the umbrella of board games? Does it have to require a board? Can an intricate card game be a board game?
I think so. I think the technical term for it is more tabletop gaming,
Okay.
in that it's people gathered around a table.
Which would technically also include things that involve miniatures.
Yeah. Well, and that's a subgenre. Just like board games would require a board, but board games are a subgroup of tabletop games.
Okay.
Which all of this has been necessary vocabulary because gaming has gotten so big in the last few years. I mean, board games in the past, like you said, are Sorry, Trouble, Monopoly.
Or like with card games.
Life.
It was where you played with a deck of cards or it was a collectible card game. Those were like the only two options.
Right.
And
Yeah,
now,
what's Magic the Gathering?
Magic the Gathering's a collectible card game, I'd say.
So it falls broadly under that tabletop
Yes.
umbrella.
Yeah. I
On the
think so.
outskirts.
Yeah.
it's on the outskirts, but most gaming stores that you go into, they'll have tables dedicated to it. They'll have shelf space dedicated to it. It's been kind of a problem in some of the gaming stores that have popped up in town. We're from Jacksonville, Florida, and there are lots of gaming stores all of a sudden there of varying varieties, and some of them have been more Magic focused. All of them have had some degree of Magic available.
That's because Magic has got to be lucrative for gaming
Yeah.
stores because it's ongoing, because of that
Because it's a
collectible. Right.
Yeah.
It's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
And there's such a back catalog of cards and such a trade in the back catalog of cards that you can buy and sell. It's like the old baseball card shops where there's old rares and different tournament formats and theme decks. And so it's such a big game that they can keep the money churn going.
And then new expansions come out so frequently that
Yeah, well, and Wizards does a really good job marketing it. The Friday Night Magic is a program that they do where they will sponsor and send reps and run tournaments every Friday night at your local game store. And so Friday Night Magic is what they call it. And it's a gathering spot, magic gathering, where people will come bring their cards and play tournaments. And it's really popular. So it ends up selling a lot of cards.
But
It's good
then-
for Wizards. It's good for the game store. It's good for the game itself.
That provokes a backlash, though. There's now an entire genre of games dedicated to having a lot of the same principles of deck building, but where you don't ever have to worry about necessarily buying more cards or needing the latest in order to be competitive.
right.
And that sort of idea.
That's what I was going to ask, because there are games like Dominion,
Exactly.
which you introduced to me at a Dragon Con, I think 2 years ago. I love the game.
Yeah.
And it is a deck building game similar to, it plays similarly to Magic the Gathering. Ish.
There's similar elements, but
But the big thing about it is one of my favorite things to do in Magic the Gathering was I actually like to build decks more than I like to play the game. And what I like so much about Dominion is it blends the two, because the whole game
Is the
is
building
about
of the
building
deck.
the deck. Everyone
Yeah.
takes a turn and picks a card, one of several cards laid out to try to build a deck with a strategy, to build an engine, really.
and all you need to play it are the cards. It's not like you need special tokens for mana or whatever,
Right.
because the victory points are cards in the deck.
And these are called living card games. So they're games that have expansions, but when you buy the box, you get a set amount of cards, and that's all the cards you need. There aren't any chance of getting cards that you might need or chance of not getting cards that you want. You buy the box, you get all the cards.
And everyone's on the same playing field that way.
That's right.
You can buy expansions.
Yeah.
Expansions are available for Dominion, but the beauty of that is if you buy the expansion, everyone's playing with the expansion.
That's right.
There's no varying degrees of power.
Yeah.
Well, both the base game and the expansions come with a bunch of kingdom cards, which is the variability aspect of it. You have 10 kingdom cards that you pull into a game, and you can randomize those from anything.
Yeah,
And,
and the-
everyone playing in the game has access to those cards, so it's not like any one player is at an advantage from the other.
Right.
It's not based on how much money you're willing to spend.
Right.
Yeah. But they call those living card games. And there are others that are just card games. You buy it once, they're not going to expand it. It's just a card game.
Loot.
Loot is a good example of this. Plague and Pestilence is a good example of this.
Oh, Plague and
The Holy-
Pestilence. I wish that would come back into print so badly. I haven't played it in, 12 years? and I
Holy grail
still
of
look
card
for
games.
this
Yeah, Plague and Pestilence. If this
Yeah.
is the Holy Grail,
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it.
It was released a long time ago, back in the 80s. I guess long time ago,
German?
relatively. And
Well, it was released before board games had come into this sort of new renaissance of European games and all that.
indie game that was reprinted in the States by a small game shop called Annie's Toy Box. And it had pretty wide publishing when it was in print. It went out of print. It was brought back for a limited run
By a small gaming company called Chessex,
Yeah.
which has then done nothing with it.
Chessex, the dice company?
Yes.
Essex, the dice
Okay.
company, bought the rights to Plague and Pestilence from Annie's Toy Box and have done nothing with it since.
How long ago was that?
2001 is when they bought the rights to it.
Do you know, like, let me ask you, because you're a lawyer.
A Jesus lawyer.
Yeah.
I play one on TV. No.
From what I understand, like, you can't copyright a game, right? It's like everything associated with it. It's like the art assets
Right.
and all that. So this game that's out of print, like, let's just redo it and title it something else and re-release it because clearly people want it, right?
Yeah, well, and on Board Game Geek, so while we're talking about board games, I'm going to plug this website. Full disclosure, I don't get any commission, but if you want to know anything about board games, boardgamegeek.com is the place to go. They have them rated, they have them split by genre, by game type, by publishing year, by edition. And so you can find out all these things. There's a Plague and Pestilence discussion on Board Game Geek. And there's also a marketplace where people buy and sell and trade
So,
board games.
Like we the segment for how much is this game going on Amazon? They cross-reference Amazon, eBay, the country-specific eBays, their
they-
own marketplace to say this is how much this game is.
So they
going
give
for
you like
right
an
now.
average of like all those?
Yeah, and Plague and Pestilence, if you can find it at all, is $150, $160 card game.
in fair to
And it's-
bad condition.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's got like 30 cards.
Why don't they just re-release this game?
I don't know.
It seems like if people are willing to pay $160, they could probably make a little bit of money off of it. I mean, especially considering like the board game community is growing. And like you said, Laura, it's kind of like a board game renaissance almost.
Yeah.
Well, like we were talking about earlier this week, Laura's taste in music genres, that this is also her taste in games. This card game is very dark. Like the Grim Reaper is on everything. It's skulls and plague ships.
It's medieval themed. And that was how I was introduced to it, was a friend of mine who was also not really intending on going into this professionally, but we were basically making our majors medieval history.
Okay.
And we were on a trip together in Ireland, and he brought the cards because it was a very portable game that you could play that had a lot of replayability. And the game ends when your population is all dead. There's varying ways that
That's
they get
happy.
killed. Yeah. So it's one of those sort of quasi, like faux medieval, really cheerful looking dead people sort of thing. You know, like the people are on pirate flags.
Okay.
Like that
Nightmare
that
Before
sort of-
Christmas?
That sort of style of artwork. Not like a Calavera for Dia de los Muertos, but more like I don't know, just sort of bad line drawn art that they have on pirate flags.
Oh, you like old school? Yeah.
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 That's-
These are like reminiscent of like medieval woodcuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
awesome.
what it's supposed to be evocative of.
Do you guys own this game?
No.
No, that's a game that I really want to add to the collection.
And,
Yeah.
the
And
friend-
if anybody listening has a copy of it, I would be happy to trade or pay. I won't pay $150 for it.
Get you to
because-
heaven.
Yeah, that's right. Indulgences for your copy of Plague.
That's so perfectly appropriate for a medieval themed game.
Yeah, it is.
They don't work. It won't actually keep you out of purgatory. But if you'll give me your
purgatory
copy
exists.
of Plague and Pestilence.
We're saying purgatory exists?
Yes, yes, but we're not going to get into that debate on the show.
What? No. Oh.
Purgatory does exist, and they only serve crystal.
Well, then what's heaven then?
Not that.
Because really, growing up, board games to me were never board games like they are today. They're like long and fun. Like my board game, of course, we talked about Guess Who and being so sad that people didn't talk.
Yeah, that commercial is
False advertising.
yeah, it's the
Yeah,
worst.
It's a tease.
Ants in the Pants.
Ants in the Pants. Never played it.
All the games that came in those like really nice like
Square boxes.
Square
Yeah,
boxes.
the
yeah.
white square boxes.
Yeah, it had blue overalls.
don't break the ice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Cooties? Was that
Cooties.
one of them?
Cooties.
Yeah, cooties.
Is that really a game?
Yeah, it's a game.
It's like Tiddlywinks, right?
Yeah.
There's like Barrel Full of Monkeys was also released by them.
Yep.
They did a version of it.
Oh, the jaws with the teeth that you have to pull out?
The fishing game.
Crocodile.
Yeah.
The crocodile teeth?
Yeah, Crocodile Dentist.
Crocodile Dentist.
Yeah.
Crocodile Dentist. Now
Yeah.
that's a commercial that I'll never be able to forget.
Let's see, Don't Wake Daddy. I played a lot of Don't Wake
Don't
Daddy.
Wake Daddy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if I ever played that.
Then a little more classic Connect 4. I love chess. My dad taught me to play chess when I was young. I really enjoyed chess. Checkers. I played Brendan Gatsby and I played a lot of checkers growing up. What did we call him? Beat It Bill. Beat It Bill and I
Not
played a lot of
familiar
a lot of Mancala.
Beat It Bill, the friend.
Jerk It Jeff.
Yeah.
That was Jerk It Jeff. Jerk It Jeff and I played a lot of Mancala.
Oh,
Which I don't know if that's just kind of a weird toy maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the wooden board with the divots in it and you have all those colored stones and you have to put one in every one and the goal is to run out of stones first.
sounds like a simplified version of Go.
I've always
What
hated
does?
Monopoly. Hated Monopoly. Never been my thing.
All right. Yeah, Wiley took a deep breath. I took a deep breath. I think we're about to break down some Monopoly.
Yeah.
I loved Pretty Pretty Princess. I played that with my cousin a lot.
Yeah.
I knew I could fucking play some Pretty Pretty Princess.
Before we go on the Monopoly tangent, there was one game that we played as kids growing up because I had a grandfather and some great uncles who did woodworking and the Sorry family of games. We called it Aggravation.
Yeah.
We had handmade games.
Okay.
We're pretty sure there's a blood tie between people in my mom's family and the dice that were kept in there. That's what I used when
Oh man.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Because I went and
I do.
grabbed a bunch of those dice from our Aggravation set that I inherited, and that's what I played D&D with.
I
Because
think there's these regional dice games as well because Nikki up in the St. Louis area they play what they call hot dice, which is like a variant of Yahtzee, and it's from what I found all these different regions around the country have these variations on Yahtzee. I don't know if that has anything to do with.
Well, Aggravation is very much like Sorry and Trouble and those style of games, except that the way our board was oriented, you could be a lot more aggravating because you could come after someone. It's not like you had to, by the way the rules were written, go to your home when it was time to go home.
Okay.
You could go around again if you wanted to take somebody out.
So this was a board game. This wasn't a dice game.
No, this is a board game that involved dice.
Okay.
So it's very dice driven, Are your dice working for you? Because if they're not, you're going to be really miserable. I'd like to introduce you to my husband who does not enjoy this game.
Pure luck game.
Yeah.
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 Pure luck game.
The only aspect of it that's really not luck based is whether or not you make that decision to come around to come after somebody, and whether or not you go in the center
Yeah.
take the chance of skipping the rest of the board.
Yeah, the only skill that's really involved is how aggressive and
Vindictive.
vindictive that you want to be. And so it's luck, which I don't do very well at all.
Well, you roll really well though. Classically.
Yes. In Call of Cthulhu games.
Well, interestingly, a 1 is not a bad roll in this game because to get out of your base, a 1 or a 6 is necessary.
Which means I can roll neither to save my life.
Yes, he doesn't even roll
Seriously?
1s in this game. He rolls all 2s.
Can we talk about Monopoly
We can
just
talk
a little
about
bit?
Monopoly.
Yes.
Because I feel like Monopoly's that's a talking point.
Yeah, so my favorite phrase is that if it takes you more than 2 hours to play Monopoly, you're doing it wrong.
Amen.
And that's because most people don't read the rules. And if your family did this, Tyler, I'm not judging you because
Go ahead, it's fine.
Free parking.
My family did.
I know where you're going with
My
this.
family did the exact same thing. My brother and I
Of course
would
your family
play.
would do the same thing. That's just Tyler's family.
That's right.
Yeah, we came from a very similar family.
We would play marathon games of Monopoly, and we never understood why this game would never end. And it's because we weren't playing it by the rules.
What is the secret rule?
Well, so free parking.
Free parking. Don't put money in the center of the table.
That's right. That's not in the rules
Don't
of the
do
game.
it. It's not in the rules.
The
Yeah.
lottery that results from landing on free parking and winning the money in the middle
Prolongs the game.
It breaks the game because it's like the lottery.
The mechanic in Monopoly is player elimination by bankruptcy. And so the more money you put into the economy, the longer you prolong bankruptcy. The objective is to put the other players out of the game by running them out of money. And so to have this lottery spot where you get the tax money that should be going to the bank and goes to the middle of the board instead. And when you have other things that are rewarding players with money, which is ultimately what you want in Monopoly, but should be scarce. That's the point. Then the game just lasts forever.
And then some
Endeavor and
people don't auction off properties.
Right. Yeah. This is the other rule that people
Yeah,
forget. When a property is landed on, if the player who lands on it cannot or does not wish to buy it, it's immediately auctioned off by the bank. And so what this does, and the first bid can be $1. And the player who landed on it can bid on it. So you can say, no, I don't want to buy this property. The bank opens the bids and you immediately bid $50 for Park Place. And you could get it for Park Place if no one's willing to outbid you. But what that does is it puts property in the hands of players that can be improved, that makes rent go up, that takes money out of the economy faster and makes people go bankrupt.
And quicker.
Yeah.
Because like now it's not just dependent on chance to get to that property.
Right. The property is immediately available. You don't have to wait until you land on St. James Place. You have to wait until someone lands on it and doesn't want to buy it. Or if someone does, then you start offering them money. And property trading, I mean, it's the subtitle of the game, Monopoly, a property trading game.
I think Monopoly is a really fun game when it is played by the letter of the law.
Yeah.
But I think like you introduce like one house rule, and now all of a sudden Monopoly is unplayable. I mean,
unbearable.
It's unplayable.
It's part of it, but it's also a game mechanic that seems to be prevalent in these older games that I've noticed. Like I had nostalgia glasses for Clue. We replayed Clue recently, and I do personally hate the game mechanic that puts players out.
Oh,
When
yeah.
you get eliminated from a game, I just find that like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Right?
Yeah.
You know, especially if the game is going to last
Play
for a while.
Earthbound. While everyone else is playing the game.
Yeah, no qualms with that.
Sorry, go ahead.
And that's just what I've been doing all weekend this weekend.
I haven't played Clue in a hot minute.
Oh, yeah?
I haven't played Clue probably since I was 7 years old.
It's another player elimination game. You get one guess. And if you're wrong, you are out.
Yeah.
And if you're right, you win and the game is over.
We also didn't play Clue right.
Yeah.
like
That's
you,
not really
like you
surprising.
just saying that right now. I'm like, nope, that's never how we played it.
Yeah, if you get one guess at what's in the confidential envelope, and if it's wrong, you as a player are out of the game. And you can't say anything to anybody else other than, well, I was wrong. And they go, well, it was not Mrs. Peacock in the library with the candlestick.
But with the
Dave just quit.
with the board gaming renaissance going on now, there have been people that have been trying to make both of these games and some others, I don't remember what the other ones are, I don't have the app on me, more fun by remixing them. There was a British group that did a Kickstarter that had started out doing like performance art and stuff. And they took Clue, which they call Cluedo in England apparently.
Interesting.
I don't know why. I don't know what that means. But they turned it into a zombie killing game.
Truck, Lori, Cluedo. I don't know.
I don't know. But they turned Clue into survival horror,
Cool.
which I think is much more interesting.
That is great.
That does sound good.
Yeah, you bring zombies in from another game like House on Haunted Hill or something like
Man.
that. You bring in miniatures, and so there are zombies in the mansion. And so not only are you trying to figure out who did it, but you're also trying to survive the zombie apocalypse at the same time.
And it's not house rules. Like it's someone specifically designed the game just to use the tokens and the board that already exists.
So so you buy the rules, or the rules available,
Rules are available online.
and then you just take those two board games and mash them up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very
They-
cool.
They did that with Monopoly. They turned it into a taxi, like you're picking up fares.
Yeah.
Okay. And they did one with Trivial Pursuit, which is another game that suffered from house rules, apparently.
Oh yeah.
That was a really big argument we had in seminary with Phil Duvall
Of second breakfast.
of second breakfast. Right? I remember vividly this one night we were on his porch, and it was just like one of those nights where it's just starting to get chilly, where it's really comfortable to be out on the porch in Northern Virginia, and you're sitting around with gin and cigars, and we decided to bust out Trivial Pursuit. And there was somebody in the group who had joined us and got too drunk and like wandered off, and we were trying to figure out how to continue the game. And then something happened, and we started arguing about it. And the house rule in question, we discovered by asking around, because this was really, really like, this is quite an argument on the level of the theological arguments that people would get into, okay? Of whether or not, when you get a pie piece, is your turn over.
It's not over.
Right.
It's not over.
But
Yeah.
that was not the house rules that anyone we knew that grew up.
No, that makes-
like south of some area.
You can't house rule that. You can't house rule that.
Right,
It
it
becomes
makes Trivial
Monopoly all of a
Pursuit
sudden. Yeah,
really
you're playing
slow.
for like 6 hours.
Right.
No.
Well, that's the thing. So I have a Genus 2 board with, is it Genus 2 or Genus 4? It's whatever the blue one that everyone's got, right?
2.
2.
No, that's the Genus edition. That's Genus 1.
Okay, well,
The dark blue one.
I've still got the instruction manual, the original like sheet of paper with the wax to like keep it
Nice.
safe. You know what I mean? And so I went into the apartment and I grabbed it because this was an argument that was getting settled right now. I went and got it and I was like, oh shit.
You were on the side of
Stop when you get a pie
Stop
piece.
when you get a pie
Oh.
piece. Because we had always played it like that. And I had gone to other people's homes and it wasn't like Rummy where you go to someone else's house and they play Rummy different.
Right.
No. This was every house I ever went to. This is how they played Trivial Pursuit. There was never a question. It wasn't like up for discussion. This was just what you did.
it's a contagion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a regional contagion because we didn't grow up playing it with each other and we both grew up playing it that way. And then everyone else I knew that had grown up in the area, that was how they played.
And I think it's a modification for when you're playing with kids. It gives kids a better chance because if the adults just keep answering the questions correctly, then the kids are sitting around watching the adults win Trivial Pursuit.
Well, also like it's great for making a game longer for kids because then you don't have to deal with the kids for 6 hours as opposed to an hour and a half.
There is that.
It's pretty good. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, this is a good reason for house rules.
There is an argument to be made, I guess. I've got a big question for you guys. Because we've talked about like Monopoly and some like traditional games that I say traditional in the sense of from childhood. Like what is the big difference between those games and the fancy games, like European board games? Like that's really what's kind of come into its own, like I'd say the last decade, right?
It seemed to have started primarily with games for a victory point goal rather than some sort of elimination of all the other players' goal.
I think it's also, victory point goal, but I think it's multiple mechanics. That it's more complex rule sets, which make them a little harder to learn. But I think that's the difference between the old games and the new games. Monopoly has one mechanic. It is buy real estate, pay money, exchange money, roll dice to have a chance to continue doing that. Really, the only other mechanic in Monopoly is the jail mechanic. But all of these other new, fancier games have multiple systems going on simultaneously. And I think that's what makes them more exciting to me. The other thing it lends to is more replayability. And so I think the games have longer shelf life, pun intended, than do the older games that can get stale because really those games are easier to master. If there's one mechanic, when you learn to master that mechanic, there are still Monopoly tournaments going on, but you can take that to the nth degree because
Play optimally.
Yeah, you can optimize a single mechanic. There's not enough, there is chance involved, but it's quantifiable. When there are multiple mechanics going on in a game, it's much, much harder to master that entire system or that set of systems. And so I think it makes the game harder to master, but at the same time more interesting to replay because the game is different each time that you come back to it. So I think that's what makes the new ones more interesting than Sorry. Sorry's just hope you roll well.
Right.
And don't get pounced on by someone else.
I mean, most of the fun of that, to be honest, is the trash talking, not so much.
Well, table talk is the fun of most every game.
It's an exercise in profanity.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, but what about Trouble with the Pop-O-Matic Bubble?
Yeah, well, that with less than a mechanic was a gimmick.
Yeah.
Well, it's a gimmick, but it's also a kind of like the equivalent of house rules to keep kids in it because you can't lose the die by rolling it off the table if it is contained in the Pop-O-Matic bubble.
Yeah, component preservation. Yeah. Well, so Tyler, you were mentioning Fiasco. One thing about that I think is what makes that game so rich is it gives you structure for what I think goes on in every writing room for every show that's ever been produced.
That's what I enjoy more than anything else, is just the creative side of things like that.
Yeah. So that game has a set of rules, but the only randomness is when the way that the randomness confines what you can do. And I think instead of handcuffing you, it makes you make decisions so then you can start being creative. It makes the hard decisions for you.
Right.
No, I love...
It's easier to be creative when you have restraints.
Yeah.
I love the kind of randomness that the Fiasco brings in with that because if it's wide open, if you can do literally anything, that's like choice overload for me. I can't deal with it. Like the places that have really big menus is going to take me a while to figure out what I'm going to eat, if you know what I'm saying. So as Tyler well knows, me designing a character takes forever. There are too many options. What do I do? Because I am not a min-maxer, so I am not interested in that kind of play style. And so it makes it harder to focus. Because then I'm not just trying
to pick the best thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And with Fiasco, it's, no, these are your options. And they're not binary options. They're just options that are randomly determined.
Right. You are his sister. You are his butler. You are interested in that set of keys. You work in this mansion. Go. And you do it scene-wise, too. So it trades off where it's an even number of players, 2, 4, or 6. And then you go in pairs or triads or even inviting other people to play NPCs. And you do it scene by scene. And so it's bite-sized chunks where you're only expected to be creative for the next 5 minutes. And then when that's over, you get the opportunity to watch someone else be creative and feed you ideas.
Recharge.
Yeah, so that you can all continue telling your pieces of the story.
This is the one thing I found disappointing about House on Haunted Hill was that it like teased you with that, but never delivered. Because I don't remember if you guys have played it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the trader game that Ramon had us play.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I had a good time up until the trader was revealed, and then I had a bad time. I hate trader effects in games.
Yeah.
I do not like it. I feel like it's disruptive to everyone working together to have fun. Inevitably, even if the first person is cool with it, somebody will get their feelings hurt and take it personally and walk away from the table and make it awkward and make it bad. I hate trader mechanics.
Well, there's that, and there's also the people that get sour if they're not included with everyone else on the team. Like, if they don't want to be the trader and they end up as the trader. But with House on Haunted Hill and its script for each group, if people are playing it straight up, it's almost like there's not enough character interaction with the way that you're
it's been so long since I've played that game.
You're just mechanically trying to take out each other as opposed to there being any sort of story element to it.
Well, I had so much
true.
fun with that game making up like my own fiction.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite part.
I think that's what it's needing, and there's not quite enough structure to do it.
I'm okay with it.
Well,
because
or enough encouragement in the rule set.
Yeah. You're building out this house, so it's like you're exploring the house, but there's some aspect to it where it's not. It doesn't have that exploratory feel to it.
I will say that game is not a perfect game, but it very much got me back into playing interesting board games.
Yeah,
because that was kind of like my gateway. I know like Settlers of Catan is like the big gateway. Like that's the one that's the introductory piece.
Unless you're James Livingston. I think I said this in the interview episode. James Livingston says Settlers of Catan breaks up families. Because it has this stinginess to it. Once the 10 victory points is the way you win, once somebody gets close, no one will help you. And so it's this fun game and everybody's sharing resources until someone gets 7 or 8. 7's sort of the crucial break point in Catan. If you can make 7, you can make 10.
This guy is dangerous in Catan because for whatever reason, I guess it's maybe the sheep angle. I don't know. But it reminds me.
Are you a sheep man, Wiley?
No.
I don't know where she's going.
Because it reminds me of Mule.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Are you familiar with this game?
No, what is Mule?
It is a fantastic digitized board game. It was done on the Commodore 64, I think was the first system that it was on.
There is an NES port, and it is wonderful.
Yeah, that Commodore 64 was the first system I played it on. Hey, video game tie-in.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's our first one this episode?
I think so. It's a digitized board game, but it's a commodity game. So you get play squares on a planet, land plots. There are river plots, plains plots, and mountain plots. And Mule is the acronym for the device that harvests whatever it is on this land. The mountain plots produce smith ore, the plains plots produce energy, solar power, and the river plots produce food. And you're a colony. And so you're interdependent. And so some people are producing food, but everybody's got to eat. Mm-hmm. Some people are producing energy that everyone needs to power their mules. And some people are producing smith ore, which is the raw material that mules are built out of. And so there has to be a symbiosis or the whole colony fails. But the person who ends the game with the most money wins. And so there's this,
So you're working together.
you have
but-
to, or the whole thing falls apart. But
So
ultimately,
you have to trade just like you have to trade to ultimately succeed in Catan, more or less. But,
right. But
But you can corner the market and control the price for things and, that sort of stuff. And then they have this other random bit that's kind of like a reverse robber, the Wampus.
Explain the robber.
Oh, so robber mechanic in Catan, each player's turn, or Catan if you're German, I suppose. Each player's turn, you roll 2 dice that governs which plots produce their resource, wood, or stone, sheep, wheat. And the most common roll on 2d6 is a 7 because there are so many combinations that can produce it. 6, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3. But since it's the most common, the mechanic in Catan, when you roll a 7, you activate the robber, and the robber moves onto a player's plot. The players that share that plot, you get to rob a resource from one of their hands, and that plot no longer produces resources, period.
Nullifies it.
Nullifies it, yeah. And so it's sort of a stab your buddy in the back mechanic, and you deny people what is sometimes their only source for that resource that's not trading. And so, yeah, it gets contentious. So there's a reverse mechanic. In Mule, there's the Mountain Wampus, which if you can get all your things done quickly, there's this little cave that appears on some of the mountains. And if you can run and catch the cave while it's open, the Mountain Wampus will reward you with money. And the money helps you buy more mule or helps you buy more resources. It's a free parking space
Okay.
in Mule. And so,
It's cute.
yeah, Laura just
And it
loves
has
that.
different music.
Yeah.
Is this game, is Mule like something that you can play by yourself against AI?
Yes.
Okay.
And the AI is not very good.
Yeah.
Because it's an older game.
Uh-huh.
So the AI, if you get good at Mule, the AI gives you a base standard to play against. And once you start being able to beat the AI, they have pretty simplistic. In fact, robots are their race.
Oh, they're represented in the game as robots?
Yeah. So there are like 10 different races, 7 different races, and each race has a special ability except for the AI, and only the AI are robots.
Cool.
And so they're pretty single-minded. And once you start beating the AI, there's really no challenge left to playing the computer because you can play them against one another and you pretty much know how they're going to think. Then it's playing human players that are better.
This sounds awesome and sounds like something that needs to be on modern tablet devices.
Yes. Oh, man.
Kickstarter?
Yeah.
There have been a lot of ports to it for browser use and PC and all that. I don't know if there's ever been a tablet port. I remember the last time we looked, there wasn't, and there really should be.
Yeah, there really should be. And yeah, it's a good game. So part of the fun is having that stuff digitized where you don't have to keep track of the meeples or the rolls or the equipment or the board setup.
Yeah, we were talking about Ticket to Ride with Jacob, Wolf Fighting fame, earlier in the weekend, and about how he was really frustrated with it.
I love that game.
Yeah, but he was frustrated
That's
with the
another
tabletop
gateway
version.
board game.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Ticket to Ride. Yeah, Ticket
Yeah.
to Ride sold me where Settlers was interesting, but like Ticket to Ride was like, okay, I can get into this.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, totally. Sidetracked you. Pun intended.
There was a port to Ticket to Ride. Days of Wonder's done a lot of them. That,
I just got the pun.
It's a sleeper.
I know.
but there was another port, Puerto Rico, to the tablet. And to be honest, I have a hard time playing Puerto Rico on tabletop. There's so many rules. It's really complex. And the tablet makes it really easy. And it's almost like these tablet ports are a gateway for these board games in some cases. I know Ticket to Ride that's been the case. I was introduced to it on the board game, tabletop version. But there were a lot of people I know that ended up, I'd send them an iPhone invite and we'd play on the phone. And that was how they got introduced to it.
I like the production in a lot of these games. Like we're talking about the tablet versions. I like those, and maybe it's the designer in me that like wants a physical box that's been printed well and produced well, and they hired an illustrator who is great at what they do and produce some wonderful art, and like it's like a work of art. I love it. Like as a designer, opening that box and even like the rules are typeset well.
Yeah.
And they're like clearly edited. It's not like I remember like getting some of the games when I was a kid and it looked like an off-center photocopy. And it's like, what happened here?
Yeah, there was a game that I played at one of our board game meetups in Jacksonville. That's a German game that's cows, and I can't remember.
Well, we have to look it up and put it in the show notes. But it's a game that involves cow poop.
Yeah, it's basically the cow pie game.
Is it a mush? Oh, that says you harvesting mushrooms and
No,
selling it to communes.
It's basically just trying to get around the board and scoring
It's
points
very-
without landing in poop.
Oh, gotcha.
It's very German poop humor. But the game elements itself, were designed to not need to be localized, so they just have numbers on them. But the rule set, someone just typed up.
Yeah, it looks like it was printed on a color printer.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sure they Google translated it. Like, it's not a legit German translation. It's just, it's close. So
Yeah.
there were some arguments there where someone was min-maxing, and they were arguing about some point of the rules, and it was because of the way that it was translated.
Yeah, they were rule smithing, but the rules were not in good English.
Here's a game about cow poop. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was telling Tyler earlier this weekend when we were talking about well-designed board games, one of the prettiest, best designed visually, especially board games that I've played in a long time, is the new Firefly game that came out at Gen Con last year. The game based on the Joss Whedon series and movie. And it is gorgeous. The currency feels like money.
Yeah.
It's not Monopoly money that's printed on white
It feels almost like it's
paper.
linen count. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
a little texture to it.
And it's in 10 color, 12 color print and very elaborately illustrated. And you don't see money change hands in the series. Or when you do, it's a prop. It's simple. It's not showy. But even just that is interesting. The miniatures look really good. All of the cards have screen caps from the series, and all of the text on the cards are either right out of a script or from a concept in the script. And after you play the game, if you go back and watch the series like we've done,
For example,
Mighty Fine Hat.
well, no, I was thinking of the requester of this episode.
GuyMeirow.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan-
GuyMeirow.
So Lisa and Jordan Miro played Firefly with us when we first got the game bought. They had not seen the show. Despite being Whedon fans, they just missed out on that one. And we played through it. And the first time we played through it, it was way too long. I mean, it was fun to kind of role play as Firefly people, but five
hours.
5.5 was excessive. I don't even think we really finished it. And we played through it again. We got it a little, more tight, where it was more of a playable length. And then they went home and binge watched the show because you've gotten so
Because the
many.
game sold them on the
Yes.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of similar to how there are some people that we did that with Battlestar Galactica, which despite the trader element,
Great board game.
it's great.
I need to play that. I wanted to play it at last Dragon Con. One of these years, I'm going to play Battlestar.
I'm going to bring it next year, but we were
Awesome.
hoping it would be in the library. I'll just pack it and bring it
Awesome.
next
So
year
we were
to make
hoping
sure
it would
we
be in
can
the
play.
library, and there was also an expansion that had just come out at Gen Con, or maybe just before Gen Con, and we hadn't gotten a chance to integrate it into a single box because when we took it on the cruise that we all went on, and that was one of the games that we played as a group a lot because it can accommodate a lot of players. We'd gotten 2 expansions and the base game compressed down into one box so that we could bring it on the cruise ship without any sort of problems. And we haven't even played the newest expansion yet. Because that's part of the problem is that the expansions cover up to a certain point in the show. So they're spoilers.
Gotcha.
Because of the same reason. You've got
Yeah.
characters introduced or you've got character changes introduced with different expansions. You've got flavor text on every card. pretty
Screen
much.
captures.
And screen caps.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't seen it, you're going to get spoiled if you play this expansion because
The good news is
the
there's
season.
I mean, the good and bad news is there's not much to watch.
Right. Well, so what I was getting at, Mighty Fine Hat, is one of the items you can pick up in the game. And it's paired with one of the mercenaries that you work for, one of the people that hire you. And I was trying to look up his name. What's the name of the guy who's in everything? The actor who's in everything. What's his character's name? So Badger. So when you meet Badger, he gives you missions, and one of the items you can get that you buy on the planet where Badger is the Mighty Fine Hat. And while we were rewatching the show, it's from one line in one scene when Mal meets Badger. He walks into the room, meets him for the first time, and he goes, "Well, I guess I'm not a gentleman like you with your mighty fine tie." and your mighty fine hat.
Is the mighty fine tie an item in the game as well?
don't
Maybe in one of the
recall, but-
expansions.
Is there some synergy when you combine them?
Yeah. And so when I rewatched the show and had played the game before, I was like, oh, mighty fine hat.
Because that was part of it too. When we got done playing that game and they went home and we were too wired to go to bed yet, and we didn't have anything to do the next day, we were like, we're gonna put Firefly in and we're gonna start watching it. It just made me want to watch it again.
Not to bring it back to the collectible card games, but you saying that reminded me, one of the big things when I was in high school before I played Magic the Gathering, was a huge Star Wars nerd.
Yeah.
Huge Star Wars nerd. And the Star Wars card game was a lot of fun. And I thought it was a lot of fun for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of care that you could tell that the people who at least styled the game, maybe they didn't build the mechanics, but the people who styled the game really cared about the world, and they would do those small nods, and then it would actually enrich the movie the next time you watched it.
Yeah, because you were looking for that droid or you were looking for that alien
Exactly.
in the cantina, and I know his name.
I can identify him now. Yeah.
Well, that was part of the deal with the Firefly game too. Is there were people who were playable characters, more or less, that you could be part of your crew who were had like 10 seconds of screen time
Yeah.
tops, and the screen cap was from their 10 seconds of screen time. That's all they're on.
That's all there is.
And they had to go do some script research to get names for these people.
Yeah, I still have my Star Wars cards.
Do you really?
I don't. Man, I wish I did. We could play.
Well, I have enough. I have a Rebel
Nice.
deck and an Empire deck.
And
should do
like
it.
the planetary combat and everything in that game, like there was multi layers of combat that was awesome.
Yeah, and the game staged itself. I don't think I might still have some of my Star Trek cards. They made a Star Trek collectible card game way back when Magic was booming and collectible card games were hot, and loads of people were trying to get in on that.
Yeah.
I had the Star Trek and the Star Wars collectible card games, and they were good. They just weren't Magic, and Magic is the 800-pound gorilla
Yeah.
in that genre. So, but they're fun games. I still have some of them.
I think my first few games that kind of got me into this new school of board games, one, Arkham Horror,
Yeah.
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 which I think, did you have first, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I have Arkham Horror. I thought that actually you had it.
I bought it after you did.
Okay. I can't remember who introduced me to that game.
James Livingston introduced us to it.
Yeah.
It might have been through
Maybe it
you
was Shane,
guys
yeah.
because I don't think Arkham Horror was one of those that I just picked up having not played. Although, I mean, it's Call of Cthulhu related, so it's automatically interesting to me.
Yeah. And hard.
Well, the
Very
thing-
difficult.
So Arkham Horror has two things going on. One is it's cooperative, which is a gameplay style we haven't talked about yet.
Well, and that's huge for Tyler too,
Yeah.
because
I
there's
like that
also
a lot
there's,
more.
Then there's no trader mechanic.
Well,
to
there's
it
no
as well.
trader mechanic. There's no player elimination, which I hate. You're all working together for the same goal. You all either win or lose together. And even
Right.
if you lose together, then you can complain about it all together. We played Pandemic is the first co-op game I think that we played, and we lost every time we played for the first however many matches because we were playing it wrong.
Yeah. Well, I don't like. So one of my favorite things about it is that it ups the ante. It's not win or lose. It's win or die, and not necessarily physically die, but in the
Well, unless you're playing it right.
yeah.
The hardcore mode.
But it ups the stakes. So in the storyline of the game, you win together or you die together, and I like games that have that level of intensity.
Well, and then there's that replayability as well because there's all these different elements. Like at the end of Arkham Horror, you fight an elder god.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a different
ranging in
one.
power, right? And
Yeah.
it's a different one, and they have different abilities, and
Right.
there's also different characters that you play as, and like all of these elements kind of combine together. Everything works together, but they work differently each time.
Right, because if you beat Yogg Sothoth, then all right, okay. If you beat the King in Yellow, then well, you've done a little something more. If you beat Cthulhu, then you're probably not playing the game correctly.
Right.
So the two things that makes me think of is one, we haven't talked about the show Tabletop at all. We'll go ahead and plug that on the Geek and Sundry channel on YouTube.
They don't need our help.
They,
Yeah.
No, they don't. But
We need their stuff.
and there are people who haven't heard of it, but that was actually how we figured out we were playing Pandemic wrong. Was we watched the episode and we were like, they are cheating.
Yeah.
We went, but we actually went like looking in the comments and no one mentioned it. We went
you
and got
play the- if
We
you play
got
the
the
game
rules
that
in.
way, it's super easy, and it turns out it's not super easy. We were just playing it impossibly difficult.
So we definitely know how to up the ante if Pandemic is too easy for you.
I just got it for my birthday, so I haven't played it yet.
Well,
Yeah.
if you played it the incorrect way we were playing it, we played it 12 times before we won once.
Ooh.
And we were looking online, and people saying,
And we won this way
Yeah.
before we saw the tabletop episode. So we were like, yeah, we really did something.
You unlocked an achievement.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, we won on nightmare mode and
Or Ebola mode.
Ebola mode. Yeah. So when we found out the way that I was looking online at Board Game Geek, and people were saying it was trivial unless you bought the expansion. I'm going, trivial? I am not dumb. How is this game so hard? And other people saying it's trivial. And then we found out we were playing it wrong.
So when you have a breakout, you pull
Outbreak.
an outbreak. You pull different city cards out,
Uh-huh.
and by region they have different diseases. So United States, those cards are blue.
Okay.
Blue squares. The way we were playing it was we would pull the 3 city cards, and whatever 3 cubes there were, we would put them on every city that we pulled. Or however many we pulled, we would put those on. That's not how you're supposed to do it.
Are you supposed to use one of them?
One of the color for the city that's being identified on that city.
Gotcha.
Not on all the
Not on-
cities.
okay.
The
Just that
end.
city.
Yeah, so the first outbreak we would have, all of a sudden there would be the blue disease in South America.
Because-
And how does it jump like that?
The object of that game is to contain.
Contain and eliminate
Right.
diseases. Well, the way we were playing it, the diseases would immediately break out of their geographical regions the first time there was an outbreak.
And
So it's
not
3
like-
times harder than it should
Yes.
Well, and,
Yeah.
and if your medic's trying to help people,
Uh-huh.
they have to travel all over the country, or not just over a continent, but all over the world to try to save people, because it's everywhere. It's not just like localized. So that made it significantly harder. The other thing that I was thinking of with Arkham Horror is that Fantasy Flight recognized the problem of, this is a really fun game and it's co-op and these things are great, but it's too long.
Yeah, it is a very long game. Even if everybody playing knows how to play, that
Still
game
a
can take
5-hour game.
5 hours.
Yeah.
And so they released Elder Sign, which is also available on the phone, which is
Is that the dice game?
that's the dice
Yeah.
game.
Okay.
Now I heard that, and I don't recall what the game is, but they're going to shoot for a mid-level that's more challenging than Elder Sign, but will not take you 6 hours to play. Which Fantasy Flight seems to have a lot going on with the long game deal, because they also make Battlestar Galactica, which isn't as long as Arkham Horror, but it is kind of long, and Twilight Imperium.
Longest game ever, but best game ever.
Haven't played that one yet either.
They also make the Game of Thrones board game.
That is a great game.
That,
I
yeah,
think
that
that's
we
a
have
really
played, and
fun
I really
game.
enjoyed that game.
Was this the second edition one or the first edition? Was this where there's the power scale over on the side of the board? It's a military strategy game.
No,
Okay, that's first. That's the
no,
first.
this was a
edition.
card. This was a card game.
That's the new one. That's the second edition Game of Thrones board game. So I haven't played that one.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun.
It really is.
Okay.
I think you would like it.
I was just surprised when the two of you lit up talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
a military strategy game.
No,
Yeah.
no, not so much.
Twilight Imperium is super fun because of the complexity of it, and there's so many different ways to play. Kind of like why we enjoy Ticket to Ride, where there's more than one strategy that you can employ and still be successful. However, because it takes so long, you need to have one of those tables with like the drop top on it, so where you can preserve all your stuff
Oh, right.
being on the board in the same place.
Keep your cats from knocking the ships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like drinks from spilling it or something, and then like 2
Angry
months.
guy from Ukraine on the subway. Yeah, we know.
Yeah. Because it's so hard to finish a game in one sitting without house rules to make it shorter.
Yeah. That's another one that's easily a 5-hour board game.
Yeah.
Or
And if you
longer.
have learners, it may go 6.
Or people drinking. That is
Or-
a
yeah.
terrible idea.
Not with complex rule sets like that.
And certainly not shots with space combat. It doesn't go.
Another more recent game I've really gotten into, Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that game. And I feel like that has helped me really figure out a sense of humor of my friends on another level
It
than anything
has.
else. Everybody has their card that when that card is played against them, that's the one they pick. That's
Right.
the one that's the funniest.
Now, do you own it, or have you just played it when other people have it around?
I own it.
You own it.
You not only own it, you owned it, lost it, and bought it again, right?
No.
No?
I lost it and got very sad, but I knew I'd find it eventually.
Oh, and then you found it. Okay,
did find
that
it.
makes me feel
good.
better.
Yeah.
That's a game that, because we've been playing board games and such really regularly with a big group of people, that it's also almost become played out. And I think part of the problem is like you need fresh cards more often.
Yeah.
Is it when you've heard Dick Fingers 47 times, it loses some of its
Especially when you're playing with the same people.
Spoilers.
spoilers. Yeah. There was this running gag for a while when people were trying to explain it where, apples to apples, Helen Keller is a winner. Because no matter what you put that with, that's going to be funny.
Yeah.
And Dick Fingers and,
So part of the fun is the shock value.
Right.
Of some of the things that no game I've ever played has cards
Yep.
that says this. I would never draw. This is not a community chest card in Monopoly. Community chest in Cards Against Humanity means something entirely
Yeah,
different.
it's a totally different thing.
it may involve being balls deep inside a squealing hog shooting a shotgun.
That is Miller's automatic card.
Or two midgets shitting into a bucket.
That is usually Jacob's card.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean, though? Like, we know these cards offhand, and you can just kind of say, okay. It's almost gotten to be a different level where it's like, all right, let's legitimately try to match the cards up and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I guess we just got kind of tired of it.
I still want to do TADPOG Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
I want to release our own.
Nice.
But that's part of the thing. Like,
It's an open game.
It is an open
Yeah.
game, and you can.
Perfectly fine.
So people adding their own cards, I think, is wonderful.
Yeah.
Because then you're adding the replayability back into it.
I just want to see Church Basement as a Cards Against
Yeah.
Humanity.
And Fish Lips J.
Yes. and my morning jerk-it.
I think we're about to run short on time.
Wow.
Long on time, right?
Yeah. Well, we're short on the time that we have remaining because we're going long
we're
on time.
Can you tell we like board games?
Yeah, this has been a pretty solid discussion very much the whole way through that we've enjoyed actively talking about those games that we like. So I'll have links to all these games in the show notes to our Amazon affiliates.
Yeah.
So if you want to try these games,
Man, this
help
episode-
us out a little bit.
Yeah.
This
Help us
episode's
out
going to
a
make
little
us
bit.
rich. We're going to get so many
Appreciate
nickels.
it.
So many goddamn nickels. It's going to be great.
All these nickels just piling up in my house.
So I don't really have any achievements or beards or glasses or any of that. Except for, I guess, I give my own beard to the games I talked about because I thought they were really fun.
Yeah.
But
I would love to have more time to play Fiasco with you guys.
yeah,
Because Fiasco with a group of genuine role players is a terrific game.
Okay,
Let's
there's
do
a
it- let's
game
do
we
it
have.
on the
There's
show.
a game we have not mentioned. Airlines Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up Airline Zero, but I knew we were running long.
yeah.
So we'll just bring up that it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you should buy it
Yeah.
using our Amazon affiliates link.
That's right. Buy it using TADPOG's
Go to-
Amazon affiliate.
Go to tadpog.com.
That's right.
So I
Jacob,
have a
you've
whole
been
huge
challenged.
list.
Yep.
We should do Fiasco on the show sometime.
Yeah.
we should.
Oh,
Absolutely. You are right. That would be
Next
awesome.
time you guys are in, we should do that
I
and
would
record it.
love it.
Yep. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. You can find the show on iTunes or Stitcher. So that miss the next episode. I think we'll be talking about
Number 9.
maybe.
Don't lie to them.
Maybe Mario Kart. Maybe Star Fox.
Don't lie to them.
Number 9.
Oh, we're not sure.
We don't know when this is
For
going to
Original
air.
Flavor Wednesday, yeah. We're not sure. It might not even be in the IGN's list. We're not totally
We have
sure.
no idea.
So Other Shit Monday, we doubly don't know. But thanks for listening to this one. We appreciate it. And if you appreciate this show and want to help us out, just fill our hearts with love. Keep the guns out of our mouth. Particularly Dave's. Give the show a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps us become a show that other people can see, and we'll get more fans, and then we can grow further.
Fill our heart with stars.
Fill our heart with stars. So if you'd go write us a review, we'll even sweeten the pot for you. That way, if you have a game you want us to play, or I guess really Other Shit Monday, a topic you want us to discuss, or if you want us to play another board game, any kind of game, put it on there. If there's a special guest you want for a certain episode, we'll try to make that happen. Put that up there. There are other options. I don't think you should do them. Just stick to the first two.
Maybe.
The first two are pretty solid. So whatever you put in there, we promise that we will get to that thing that you have requested eventually.
Don't worry, guys. Like Tyler said, we're gonna be back. We're gonna be talking about stuff. Who knows? Who knows? We might be doing Fiasco. Probably not. Probably not for like
A little while.
a bit. Unfortunately,
Well, we need to see if his baptism took.
right. Okay.
He said in right. So if it didn't, they'll have to come back.
Right.
Can we arrange that? Like, does that like scar a child if you purposely make sure the
remove
baptism
the
doesn't take?
She won't remember.
She was already vomiting today. As if her head starts spinning around, you definitely
know.
have to come back. Yeah, it did not take.
As always, if you can't get enough Tadpog goodness, you can find us on tadpog.com. That's where the show notes live. That's where we're going to make all kinds of nickels on you wonderful listeners. You can also find us on Facebook. We are at facebook.com/tadpog. There are a lot of cool people there doing a lot of cool shit. I actually know that impresario Tony has mentioned a board game, I believe, that a friend of his designed. Tony, post something there on Facebook and let us know more about that.
Cool.
And maybe see if we can get a comped copy of the board game that we could talk about on the show.
I play
Just
test.
throwing that out there.
I play test.
Because Wiley is definitely the dude that you want to do that. You can find us on Twitter. We are at @tadpog_podcast. It's cumbersome. I realize that. But thanks for hanging in there with us. And thanks for retweeting whenever we do an announcement. And thanks for tweeting at us. I actually really enjoy talking to you guys.
Yeah, as always.
Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thanks
Wiley,
for having us again.
Laura, it's good to have you legitimately
First time
on
on
the
the
show.
show.
Yeah, it's great.
Good to be back in bluegrass country.
We got to ask him, though. Mm-hmm. Okay, our theme song, Wiley.
Moves.
And who's it by, Laura?
Sycamore Drive.
Boom. Partnership. Yeah, it's good.
They
It's good.
passed the marriage
They're
test.
on. They're on par with. They're on
like
par
the
with
dating
Josh.
game.
They're on par with Josh and Nicole. It's great.
That
It's
means
great.
ours took. It's good.
A link to that track can be found.
On the show notes at tadpog.com.
Excellent.
So until next time,
What kind of voice we're gonna do?
the style of this one. Mm-hmm. How about the guy who says I'd buy that for $1 in RoboCop?
Uh-huh.
So we do
As Josh?
that voice as Josh.
All right, this is gonna be tough. I'm just gonna do Josh said I'll buy that for $1.
Okay, and then
Everyone else do Tropical Capricorn, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
until next time.
What happened?
I don't know.
We don't need lube.
I haven't seen you turn that red in a long time that quickly.
That's a lot of pre-cum.
Wow.
There's your
Now think of
stinger.
that Kids in the Hall skit for the.
Oh, please tell me you weren't recording.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't need lube.
I haven't seen you turn that red in a long time that quickly.
That's a lot of pre-cum.
Wow.
There's your
Now think of
stinger.
that Kids in the Hall skit for the.
Oh, please tell me you weren't recording.
Oh yeah, absolutely.